2022, thanks to some great new shows, we were introduced to a bunch of complex and interesting villains. But as great as these new villains may be, they are heavily inspired by the antagonists of a previous decade, who defined how an anti-hero should be written. So in today's video, we're going to look at these legendary villains who left a huge mark on the world of anime. We're starting off the list with Shogo Makishima.
Alas, it really is quite a terrible shame.
Who made it possible for psychopaths to stand out even in 2012, which might have been the most stacked year in all of anime. His total lack of empathy and sociopathic nature only help him in pointing out the glaring flaws of the system he hates so much. But what makes Makishima really special is the fact that even though his actions are despicable, we can actually understand his motivation for spilling so much blood. This is one trait he shares with Joker from Batman, who's considered to be the main inspiration for his character. In a time when anime characters were becoming one-dimensional, Makishima was a shining example of how to write a villain who can steal the show. Next up we have Miruem, who might just be the most complex villain on the list. The king of the Chimera Ants goes through an insane journey, which helps him grow a lot as a character. Born as a supreme being, the only thing he understands is power, which is why he considers weak people to be dispensable. However, his beliefs are challenged when he comes across Komugi. This little girl makes him realize that strength isn't everything a king needs. She also awakens him to the idea of compassion, which is why the once callous king decides to eradicate the inequality from his world. His development from a mindless monster to someone that vaguely resembles human beings is simply a masterclass in writing. And for this very reason, he's not only the best villain of 2013, but one of the greatest of all time. The best villain of 2014 is Madara Uchiha. Let's face it, you can't really make a list of villains from the early 2010s without including the terror that is Madara. He was one of the biggest draws from the 4th Shinobi War and also the mastermind behind pretty much the entire storyline of Naruto. Born during the early days of Shinobi history, Madara quickly learned to hate the world around him. After losing everyone he loved, he began looking for a way to end this bloodshed, and this blind ambition turned him into a ruthless being who didn't think twice before massacring entire towns and manipulating children if that helped him achieve his dreams. His fall from grace showed us how even the greatest of men can lose their way after experiencing grief and total hopelessness. Moving on, we have the Deep Sea King, who became one of the scariest villains thanks to all the mindless chaos he causes during Season 1 of One Punch Man. Now, if I'm being honest, 2015 didn't really have many memorable villains. It was a year defined by plenty of slice of life and sports anime, which is probably why a cunning and cruel character like Deep Sea King shone so brightly. During his assault, he decimates some of the best heroes in the entire world in front of hundreds of civilians, just to establish how strong he is. The way he toyed with anyone who stood against him was really hard to watch, and even though he didn't stand a chance against Saitama, his battle against these heroes is certainly one of the best in the series. The best villain of 2016... Yoshikage Kira might not be the most powerful character in the world of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, but he sure is the scariest because he's the most plausible of all. The serial killer from Diamond is Unbreakable is the only JoJo villain who would be terrifying even without his stand. He is a master of setting up traps and taking out his target without them even noticing him. As a psychotic serial killer, he has no regard for human life, but you won't know that since he is really good at hiding his lust for blood. And add to this his stand, Killer Queen, and you have a demon who can not only take out anyone, but can make sure that anyone who finds out about his identity dies in a fiery explosion. Next up we have Altair, who's one of the most charismatic and out-of-the-box villains of all time. Without going into too many spoilers, in Recreators, this doujin drawing is looking to make her creators pay for abandoning her mercilessly. Her quest to get vengeance on our world for taking her life's purpose away from her was equal parts thoughtful, heartbreaking, and wildly imaginative. Easily the strongest part of an occasionally troubled production. She was a total badass while being surprisingly humane, which is the lethal combination that made people fall in love with her despite her obviously dark nature. 2018 was all about Overlord. With the show dropping not one but 2 brand new seasons in a single year, and establishing Ainz as one of the most popular anti-heroes in the world. I'm sure by now no one really thinks that this skeleton is a nice guy. Sure, he may be kind towards his guardians, but he doesn't give a shit about any of the other NPCs who inhabit the highly intricate world around him. Add his completely broken stats to his utter disregard for anyone else, and you have a recipe for a tyrant whose only goal is to establish his dominance over the weak. The next villain on our list is Askeladd, who just like Makishima before him, brought something new to the table. He showed us that even the most humane people are capable of committing the most inhumane atrocities when pushed against the wall. Askeladd is indeed a cold killer who will do anything as long as he's getting paid. But don't let his occupation let you think that the man loves to kill. In reality, he hates all this violence, but is living in a society where he doesn't have the luxury to worry about the morality of his actions. He has to do anything he can to survive, even if that means going against what he believes. But his treatment of Thorfinn makes one thing clear. Even though he's not a good man, he isn't one without principles. While Askeladd may have shown us some humanity from time to time, Mahito is a villain through and through. In fact, he might just be the darkest villain on this list, and this is exactly what made him stand out among many villains from the Jujutsu Kaisen universe. The way he ruined Junpei's life just for fun horrified people. It showed us just how messed up these cursed spirits can be if left alone, and it also allowed Itadori to reaffirm his goal of saving people from dying at the hands of these monsters. I know Sukuna became the most popular villain of 2020, but if you ask me, he just didn't have the impact that Mahito did in Season 1. Now before we talk about the final villain on our list, we'd just like to thank you for subscribing and wait a minute, you haven't subscribed yet? Nani? Kuso? I mean, don't forget to leave this video a thumbs up and also hit that subscribe button so you don't miss more content like this. And finally, in 2021, the Witch of Greed, Echidna, became the new darling of anime fans who were amazed by the depth of her character and her cunning nature. True to her title, Echidna only thinks about achieving her own ambition. The way she tries to manipulate Subaru by being kind to him is both entertaining and heartbreaking at the same time, since we know our broken protagonist will do anything for a chance to open his heart. She might not be a bloodthirsty, mindless demon, but her complete indifference towards the plight of others makes her just as dangerous, because thanks to her greed, she can destroy the balance of the entire world without giving it a second thought. And this defiance of traditional character tropes makes her the most interesting and best villain of 2021. And that brings an end to today's video. Do you guys agree with my list? Share your thoughts and suggestions with me in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.